My name is Elizabeth Carter. I am 48 years old, and until 3 months ago, I believed my family was unbreakable. I believed my husband Daniel was a good father, and that our daughter Emma was growing up in a home built on trust. I was wrong. I did not know how wrong until the night Emma looked up at me with tired eyes and asked a question that shattered everything. Mom, can I stop taking the pills Dad gives me? The room went silent. I remember standing there frozen, watching her fingers softly trace the edge of her notebook, as if she was afraid to speak. That one sentence was the crack in the glass. From that moment forward, nothing about our lives was simple again. Emma had changed slowly over 2 weeks. She went from bright and playful to withdrawn, sleepy, confused. She drifted from room to room like her body was present, but her mind was somewhere far away. When I returned home from a business trip, I expected hugs, stories, excitement. Instead, I found my daughter sitting still, staring through her homework like she could barely understand the numbers on the page. I knelt beside her, brushed the hair from her face, and she told me her father said the pills were vitamins to help her think better. But every time she swallowed one, she slept for hours. She woke dizzy, foggy, almost lost. Something was wrong. A mother can feel danger even when she cannot name it yet, and I felt it that night, breathing quietly inside our safe little home. The next morning, I made Emma breakfast, hoping food might settle whatever was happening inside her small body. She picked at her scrambled eggs without appetite, pushing them across the plate with the back of her fork. My cheerful girl used to eat like every bite was an adventure. Now she was quiet, slow, like she was carrying something she could not name. She whispered that the pills made her sleepy. She said sometimes she could not stay awake in class, and her teacher asked if she was feeling sick. Emma shrugged when I asked why she had not told me sooner. Dad said it was normal, she murmured. He told me vitamins sometimes take time to work. I smiled at her because she needed comfort, not panic. But inside me, a wildfire was building. A child does not invent symptoms like that. Something inside her was shutting down, and I needed to know why. When Daniel came home that evening, I asked casually about Emma's health, hoping he would mention the vitamins on his own. He did not. He simply said, "Kids get tired. That growth takes energy. That I worry too much." He kissed Emma on the top of her head and told her she was doing great in school. She smiled weakly, but her eyes were dull as wet glass. Later that night, I watched her fall asleep on the couch before 7:30, barely keeping her eyes open as she looked at the TV. I lifted her in my arms, too light, too tired, and tucked her into bed. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels wrong. I walked the hallway with only the sound of the refrigerator humming, and in that stillness, a thought arrived like thunder. What if the pills were not vitamins at all? His reassurances suddenly felt rehearsed, too smooth, too prepared. I sat awake long after Emma slept, listening to Daniel type on his laptop downstairs. The gentle tapping of keys sounded like secrets. I stayed still in the dark, hands shaking, heart racing, knowing something was unraveling, and I was going to follow that thread wherever it led. The next weekend, Daniel left early for what he called a client breakfast. Emma was still asleep, curled beneath her blankets with that same heavy stillness that frightened me. I stood outside her room for a moment, watching the soft rise and fall of her chest. A child should not sleep that deep every day, not with shadows under her eyes. I decided to look for the vitamins. At first, I searched gently. Kitchen drawers, the medicine cabinet, the pantry, nothing. Each empty moment only sharpened my fear. I moved to our bedroom, the place where truth and lies now lived side by side. Daniel's nightstand drawer slid open with a soft click. Inside were receipts, coins, pens, nothing unusual. I almost closed it, but something made me pause. In the far corner, pushed behind an old wallet, was a small white bottle, no brand, no pharmacy label, just plain plastic with a strip of masking tape. Across it, in Daniel's handwriting, was one single word: vitamins. My hands turned cold. I twisted the cap open and tipped one tablet into my palm. It was small, chalky, white, no imprint or dosage mark. It looked like medicine meant to be hidden. I set the bottle down, as if it were fragile glass, though the truth inside it could shatter a life far worse. I stared at the pills, feeling the room tilt around me. Why would a father give his child unmarked medication? Why hide it? I put the bottle in my pocket. My heart was racing, my breath unsteady, but a strange calm settled in my bones. A mother can panic, but a mother can also rise. The next morning, before Daniel returned for lunch, I packed Emma's bag, held her hand gently, and told her we were going out. We were going to find answers, and this time I would not ask my husband for permission. I drove to St. Helena Children's Hospital with both hands tight on the wheel. Morning lights spilled across the dashboard, but nothing felt bright, nothing felt safe. Emma sat in the back seat with her pink backpack on her lap, yawning, eyelids heavy, though she had slept nearly 12 hours. She asked where we were going, voice soft as paper. I told her we were seeing a doctor, just to make sure she was okay. She nodded without question. That alone broke me. Inside the hospital, the air smelled like antiseptic and quiet fear. Nurses walked with steady steps. Parents paced waiting rooms with coffee cups and worry. I filled out forms with shaking hands. Then we were called back by Dr. Hannah Lell, a pediatric specialist with silver streaks in her hair and eyes that looked like they had seen far too many truths. "Tell me what brought you in," she said gently. I handed her the bottle. She turned it in her palm, eyebrows tightening. No label, no dose. Who prescribed these? When I answered that my husband gave them to Emma and called them vitamins, Dr. Lell stopped writing. She looked at my daughter, then at me, and something quiet shifted in her expression. The room felt smaller. Blood tests were ordered immediately. I held Emma's hand as a nurse threw the sample. She didn't cry. She just turned her face away like she was too tired to feel. We returned to the waiting room, and I watched the second hand on the clock claw its way around and around. Every tick sounded like the start of a countdown. When Dr. Lell returned 40 minutes later, she carried a printed report and a heavy silence. "Mrs. Carter, your daughter has diphenhydramine in her system, high levels. This is not a vitamin. It is an adult sedative. It causes drowsiness, confusion, and if repeated, it can impact cognitive development in children." Her words were clean, clinical, but they sliced through me like broken glass. Sedatives given to my daughter by her own father. I felt the floor fall away. A cold rush spread through my body, as if grief and fury had fused into one. I thanked the doctor with a voice that did not sound like mine, gathered Emma's clothes, and walked out of the hospital with the truth burning in my hands. Whatever Daniel was hiding, whatever he was doing, I knew this: I was going to protect my child at any cost. I did not go home that day, not yet. Instead, I drove straight to my mother's house on the east side of Portland. The sky was gray, low, pressing against the rooftops like it carried secrets of its own. When I knocked, my mother, Margaret Davis, opened the door wearing her kitchen apron and that warm smile she had carried my whole life. She reached for Emma immediately, hugging her as if nothing in the world could harm her. I wondered how long I could let her believe that. "Mom, I need Emma to stay with you for a few days," I said. My voice was steady, but my hands gave me away, shaking slightly. "There's something I need to take care of." Margaret searched my face for answers, but did not ask questions. She simply nodded, guiding Emma inside. A grandmother knows how to read storms before they form. Emma looked back at me once over her small shoulder. I kissed her hair and promised I would come back soon. I needed to say it for both of us. I returned home alone. Every sound in the house felt dishonest. Every picture frame seemed like it belonged to strangers. I walked through each room with a slow, deliberate calm until I reached the living room. This was where Emma napped on rainy afternoons, where we built Lego castles, where Daniel once danced with her to old country songs. Now, I could not step inside without feeling betrayal, like a bruise beneath the skin. I took the small hidden camera I purchased that afternoon, shaped like an ordinary phone charger, and plugged it into the outlet behind the lamp. I angled it carefully until it pointed straight toward the couch in the front entry. The device blinked once, connected to my phone. It streamed clearly and silently. No one would know. I stood in the doorway for a long moment, heart hammering but focus sharp. I was not searching for excuses anymore. I was preparing for truth. Then I stepped outside, locked the door behind me, and sat in my car down the street, my phone in my hand, camera on screen, waiting for my husband to come home. A mother protects. A mother protects. A mother watches. A mother does not look away. It took only one day. The next morning, Daniel left the house like any other weekday, briefcase in hand, a quick kiss on my cheek as if routine could hide what was beneath it. I told him I would be working from home. He nodded, unaware of the camera staring back at him through its glassy black eye. I waited until his car turned the corner before I drove 3 streets away and parked beneath a maple tree. My phone connected to the live stream instantly. The house sat still, empty, quiet. I stared at the feed, pulled slow but heavy. At 11:30, the front door opened. Daniel entered first, laughing, jacket slung carelessly over one arm, and behind him, stepping inside like she knew the place well, came Laura Mitchell. I recognized her from Daniel's company holiday party 6 months earlier. Young, confident, hair curled neatly over her shoulders, wearing a fitted blazer and red lipstick too bold for a work meeting. She looked comfortable, too comfortable. They moved to the living room. Laura kicked off her heels, settling onto the couch. Daniel poured wine into 2 glasses, something deep red, something celebratory. They talked, laughed, leaned close. His hand rested on her knee like it belonged there. She touched his face like she had done it many times before. I watched them kiss. Not a mistake, not confusion. A kiss full of history. A kiss full of secrets. My breath left my body like it had been struck out of me. I placed my hand over my mouth because the silence inside my car felt too thin to contain my heart breaking. I rewound the footage, recorded clips, saved everything. At one point, Laura whispered something I could not hear, and Daniel laughed the kind of laugh he once reserved for me. 12 years of marriage collapsed into pixels and sound played on the small screen of my phone. I sat there until the sun moved, until their laughter became the soundtrack of betrayal. And in that moment, I understood why he had drugged our daughter, why Emma slept through afternoons and fell into long, hazy nights. He needed freedom. He needed silence. I had seen enough, and yet it was only the beginning. The next evening, Daniel came home with takeout and a bouquet of sunflowers. Sunflowers were my favorite, but that night they felt like props, a distraction, a bright yellow apology handed out before guilt was ever spoken. He talked loosely about work, about clients, about deadlines. He did not know I had seen everything. I nodded at replies, set plates on the table, and let him speak. Meanwhile, betrayal sat quietly beside us like a guest we had not invited. When he stepped into the shower, I slipped into his home office. I knew the password to his laptop. We shared everything once. At least, I believed we did. I opened our joint bank account. Transactions scrolled down the screen, date after date, line after line. Dinner at Lorene Bistro, hotel reservations at the Franklin, jewelry purchased from a boutique in downtown Portland, large cash withdrawals every week. Not emergencies, not necessities, thousands. Emma's college fund had been dipped into more than once, more than I wanted to count. I clicked through credit statements with rising disbelief. There were charges for wine tastings, spa appointments, concert tickets. Every expense whispered a story I had never been told. Laura was not a mistake, she was an investment. I circled the charges, printed everything, stacked it neatly, page after page. The evidence was not only emotional, it was financial, structured, undeniable betrayal, written in numbers instead of words. When Daniel came downstairs with damp hair and a fresh shirt, he kissed my cheek again. I did not flinch. I did not confront him. Not yet. I slid the papers into a folder, stored the video clips in a second drive, and placed both into my purse. The truth no longer frightened me. It fueled me. 2 days later, I parked outside a glass building downtown that reflected the sky like it was trying to look innocent. Ninth floor, family law. I stepped out of the elevator with my purse over my shoulder and evidence sitting inside like a heartbeat made of paper and pixels. Her name was Rebecca Nolan, mid-50s, sharp eyes, black suit tailored to precision, the kind of woman who did not raise her voice because she never needed to. She shook my hand firmly and gestured for me to sit. Her office smelled faintly of coffee and ink, like decisions were made there by the hour. "Tell me everything," she said. So I did, from the first pill Emma took, to the camera footage, to the credit card statements. Rebecca watched quietly, hands folded, not interrupting, not softening. When I finished, she exhaled once, slow and controlled. "You have enough evidence for full custody," she said, "and likely exclusive rights due to medical endangerment. The court will not overlook this." She slid a stack of documents toward me: divorce petition, custody petition, asset division. It felt unreal how quickly a marriage could be reduced to folders and signatures. I picked up the pen, my hand steady this time. I was not grieving. Not yet. I was preparing. When I signed the final page, Rebecca nodded like she had watched dozens of women reclaim themselves at this very desk. "We will file when you give the word," she told me. "But if you want him to face everything openly, you may choose confrontation before submission. It is painful, but powerful." I thought of Emma, her heavy sleep, her soft voice asking to stop taking the pills. He had taken her safety. He would not take her future. I closed the folder, stood up, and looked Rebecca in the eyes. "We will confront him first." The confrontation was not impulsive. It was chosen, planned. I wanted Daniel to face the truth, not in denial, not in private, but in front of someone whose opinion he could not excuse away from. His mother, Barbara, 74 years old, gentle and dignified. She adored Emma. She believed Daniel was a man of integrity. The truth needed witnesses, so the damage could no longer hide. I called her that morning. "Barbara, could you come to the house later today? There's something you need to see, and Emma is staying with Mom for the week." My voice did not shake, though something inside me trembled like glass under pressure. She agreed, unaware of the storm waiting behind my front door. At 2 o'clock, she arrived, carrying a small tin of lemon cookies, a grandmother's peace offering, a symbol of the world before it fractured. I invited her inside, poured tea neither of us touched, and waited. When Daniel came home from work 30 minutes later, surprise flickered across his face. His mother here? We sat in the living room, the same couch where he held Laura in his arms. Daniel asked what was going on. I reached into my purse, took out my phone, and tapped the screen. The room filled with their laughter first, then the video showed them kissing. Barbara gasped, one hand covering her mouth, eyes watering without sound. Daniel's face drained of color. He reached for the remote, for excuses, for anything to rewrite what he saw. I held up my hand. No interruptions, no lies. I laid the medical report on the table next. Diphenhydramine, high concentration, risk of cognitive damage. Barbara's jaw trembled when she read Emma's name printed at the top. Daniel tried to speak, but no justification existed for drugging a child to earn free time for an affair. Barbara turned to her son, voice quiet but sharp as winter. "You gave my granddaughters sedatives so you could cheat?" He opened his mouth to plead, to bargain, but the truth sat between us like a verdict already written. I gathered the papers, stood, and looked at him one final time, as his mother wept silently beside him. "You broke this family. I am here to protect what remains." 2 months later, we stood beneath the high ceilings of Multnomah County Courthouse, where everything smelled like old marble and final decisions. I sat beside attorney Rebecca Nolan at a long wooden table polished by decades of broken marriages. Daniel sat across from me, shoulders slumped, tie loose, eyes hollow from sleepless nights. He looked like a stranger wearing my husband's face. The judge reviewed every document quietly, methodical, and precise. Medical reports, financial withdrawals, video evidence, receipts. It was not personal to him, but to me, every paper was a scar. Rebecca presented the findings with calm clarity, while I kept my breathing steady, eyes on Emma's name highlighted in bold at the top of the report. Barbara testified next. Her voice shook, but her words did not. She told the court what she saw. She said she loved her son, but she loved her granddaughter more. When she stepped down, Daniel could not meet her eyes. It took only 40 minutes for the verdict to arrive. Elizabeth Carter is awarded full physical and legal custody of Emma Carter. Visitation for Daniel Carter is restricted to 1 supervised hour per month. Additionally, due to misuse of marital funds, financial reimbursement in the amount of $12,000 will be required. The gavel fell softly. No applause, no relief, just a moment where truth became law. I signed the papers with a steady hand. Daniel did not look up as we passed each other in the hallway. I did not turn back. Within 3 weeks, I sold the house filled with echoes and moved to a 2-bedroom apartment on the north side of Portland. Sunlight pulled through wide windows every morning, warm and forgiving. Emma's laughter slowly returned, not overnight, but like spring after a long winter, petal by petal, breath by breath. She joined art club, made new friends, painted sunsets across her bedroom wall. I hung her drawings like trophies of survival. Some nights we cooked pasta, danced barefoot on the kitchen tiles, and I realized something powerful. Safety does not come from the size of a home. It comes from the strength of the one who protects it. Emma is 12 now. Her eyes are bright again, her smile unforced, her voice full of color instead of fog. Sometimes she asks why everything changed, why her father comes only once a month, why she no longer sleeps through entire afternoons. I explain gently, in pieces she can carry, that love should make us safer, not smaller. One day she will understand the rest. I still keep the little white bottle in a drawer, not as a memory of fear, but as a reminder of instinct, a reminder that when something feels wrong, it is our duty to pause, to question, to look deeper, even when the truth threatens to break us. I came close to losing my little girl, close enough to taste regret, close enough to know I will never ignore her voice again. This story is not just about betrayal. It is about choosing courage over comfort, about standing between harm and the child who trusts you without hesitation. Motherhood is not gentle. It is fierce. It demands that we fight, even when our hearts tremble. If you are listening to my story, take this with you. Trust your instincts. Question silence. Protect the ones who cannot protect themselves. You might just save a life the way I fought to save Emma's. And if this story found you for a reason, share it. Someone else may need the reminder you heard here today. Leave a comment if my journey touched you. Like the video so that others can find it too. We are stronger when we speak, when we learn, when we protect. Thank you for listening to me.